So for more on this, let's bring in now former prosecutor David Schwartz and defense attorney. He is representing Michael Cohen in his defamation lawsuit against BuzzFeed, for the record. And Alex Little, former assistant federal prosecutor, also a defense attorney. General, both of you gentlemen, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
We have so many lawsuits to talk about here that have been going on in the last couple of weeks. But first, I do want to start with Florida. And David, you know, the NRA is suing Florida for raising the age limit from 18 to 21. It is up to the state to do this if they claim they're doing it for safety reasons. So does the NRA have a case?
I do not believe the NRA has a case. I think they're bringing it for political purposes. Clearly, the Second Amendment is not absolute. The state has a right to regulate gun control, and certainly there's a reasonable basis to raise the age from 18 to 21. The state has a legitimate interest, and they have the right to regulate regulate gun control.
All right. So then, Alex, why file the lawsuit in the first place if you know that it's sort of a lost cause?
I think they want to file it so you can have segments like this so we can talk about it, so they can show their members they're doing something. They lost almost exactly the same lawsuit back in 2012 in the 5th District, which is a court that's very favorable to conservative causes generally down in Texas, where they were trying to challenge the federal law that prohibited the handgun sales to folks under 21. So they're going to lose this one, but I think they need to be seen as active, and that's what they're trying to do.
Okay. I want to move on now to the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, suing California over sanctuary cities. You know, David, the DOJ lawsuit basically attacks 3 different laws in California, but I want to start with the state as a whole, because it is not up to the state to block the feds or ICE from doing their jobs. So right there, they're in the wrong.
I agree with you 100%, Julie. And the Supreme Court ruled in 2012 just that you cannot stand in the way of the federal government. You can't enact laws. You can't have policies that stand in the way of the federal government enacting immigration policy.
Alex, I mean, you can't stand in the way, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with it. You don't have to assist the feds. That is not the job of local officials. While they would love to have local officials be a part of helping detain illegal immigrants, it doesn't necessarily command them to do so. So they simply could just sit back and let the feds do their jobs.
That's correct, and that's what the California law is trying to accomplish. I mean, I think our founders would be really interested in this discussion because the idea back in the late 1700s that the federal government was going to come in and sort of commandeer state officials to do things was one of the things that really brought about our federal system, where there is a clear difference of power between the states and the federal government. And the California laws that are at issue in this lawsuit were designed to say to local officials, you don't have to go out of your way to help the feds. You don't have to provide them with non-public information. You don't have to do things you wouldn't normally do with the public. It doesn't talk about obstruction, but understandably that's how the Department of Justice feels about it. You
also have to wonder potential lawsuits going down the road from those victims who are victims of violent illegal immigrants who happen to be criminals as well, because in a 4-day sting in Northern California, David, they arrested over 200 illegals, and I think somewhere around 180 of them actually had criminal records.
Right. I mean, you would hope that the state government and the federal government would work together to attack violent gangs and criminal elements where people need to be deported. So the state's standing in the way, and I don't think the California law accomplishes that, just remaining silent. It really stands in the way of the federal government doing its job.
Alex, I want to move on to Stormy Daniels, because she's suing the president. And in this one, I don't know where this is going to go, but basically she is suing the president because he did not sign a non-disclosure agreement that she apparently made with Cohen, Trump's attorney. What is she trying to get out of this? Because this deal seemed to be more between Cohen and her, not necessarily Donald Trump and her.
And that essentially is what she's saying, is that because it's not a deal with Donald Trump directly, I can speak. This isn't a binding agreement. You know, Cohen had really nothing to do with this exchange of information, and so I can talk and tell people about my affair with the President of the United States. It's a fascinating issue. I think one of the things that people don't realize—
She's already talked about it, so I mean, why is she even bothering with this lawsuit?
Well, I suspect she wants to give, I mean, part of it is for the publicity of it, but I think one of the things that's interesting here is this contract probably violated federal election law. In 2008, you know, the same thing that happened with President candidate, John Edwards, he was trying to get somebody to pay off, at that time, his affair partner who had had a child. He got indicted for that in North Carolina and charged and went to trial. And so I think there's some really interesting, difficult legal issues that Mr. Cohen's going to run into soon.
Absolutely not, Julie. I mean, full disclosure, Michael's my client. But
Right.
the bottom line is, it does not violate federal election law. This is an attorney representing a client. It doesn't matter whether or not he was running or not. This happens every day in corporate America. That's number one. Number two, the contract is completely valid. Donald Trump is a third-party beneficiary of this contract. It doesn't matter who the contract is between. It's a valid contract between two people. There was a quid pro quo. There was consideration. And now she wants to violate this. She has no shot in court.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is it typical for a lawyer to pay $130,000 or whatever the price tag may be to keep somebody quiet? Because that's not typical, that's not ethical, and that never happens.
Well, no, it's not typical, but it's not illegal.
Have you ever heard of it happen before?
It's not.
Name one lawyer that you know that has paid somebody else to stay quiet.
First of all,
out of his
Julie,
own pocket.
these cases happen every single day. So this is a very typical case. A very typical case where someone is being attacked, and to avoid litigation and to avoid a character assassination, they pay an amount of money. This happens every single day.
I agree, people get paid to stay quiet. It happens all the time. It's just a matter of where the money is coming from.
It's not being paid necessarily to stay quiet. It's being paid so this person doesn't have to go through a prolonged litigation. That's what it's all about. Happens every day.
Julie, it's illegal, and in three months when we find out that he's done this, we can have this conversation
What
again.
law does it violate?
Pretty much everything.
What law? Name a law.
My producer's going to have my head in 2 seconds.
It doesn't violate any law.
All right, Alex Little, thank you very much. David Schwartz, thank you very much. There's just so much legally going on.
That opened up a can of worms. Lawmakers, meantime, are skeptical after President Trump agrees to meet with North Korean